What is going on, TCG enjoyers? Today I have a really cool video. One of the best comebacks I've ever seen in competitive play from one of the best players in Pokemon, Andrew Hedrick, where he's down 6 prizes to 2 against Lugia with his Dragapult deck, with the Sparkling Crystal in the prizes, no energy in play, and no Temple of Sinnoh in the deck. And Andrew just puts together a beautiful 3-turn plan where he just plans everything perfectly, understands the prize map super well, and how to take advantage of Sommet's board. So I really wanted to just highlight that today to kind of teach you guys how to plan a little bit into the future, or just to let you guys see a really cool play. So to help with that, I have created the board on the simulator. I've linked it in the description below if you want to give it a try. I recreated Andrew's board 1-to-1, even the cards on top of his deck. Sommet's might be a little off within the discard, but his board is right. So if you want to give it a try, pause the video and go take a look. The only context I'll also give maybe is that Sommet played Lumineon for boss this turn as well, if you need a little bit more context. But yeah, so pause it now if you want to try it. Otherwise, just enjoy the analysis with me. So we're going to start here where Andrew is deciding what to promote. He's going to promote the Duskull. And we'll see his top deck for the turn, then we can discuss maybe what we need to do. So, okay, so it's Iono, you have Psychic, and you have Ultra Ball. So I'm just going to hop over to the sim here. And discuss a couple things. So the first thing Andrew needs to do is figure out what his plan is for the turn, and ideally what his plan is a few turns into the future. So his opponent's at 2 prizes, so obviously we're trying not to lose to that. So what are some ways we can lose? Well, if Iron Hands takes another knockout, we're going to lose, right? So if you leave anything in the active that has 100 health or less, you're going to lose. Or if Sommet gets Boss's Orders, we're going to lose. So Boss's Orders is something this turn that I would not even be playing around at all, in the sense that I wouldn't be worried about benching liabilities or stuff like that, because we're losing a boss regardless, right? So if Sommet gets boss next turn, Sommet gets boss. One interesting thing to consider is that Sommet played Lumineon for boss last turn. So it's actually a fair read to make that Sommet doesn't have another boss in his hand, because he probably would have just played it instead of wasting a Lumineon on it and locking his bench, right? So even though Sommet's hand is kind of large, I think if you had an Arven or something in your hand, you really wanted to play it, it's actually completely reasonable to, or a Lance, it's completely reasonable to do it this turn. Because really Sommet, his odds of getting a boss would be the 2 cards from the prize plus his top deck. And if you play Iono, you're also giving Sommet 2 random cards plus his top deck. So it's more or less kind of the same odds. There's a little difference maybe. I would need someone to do a complicated math formula for me. But for our intents and purposes, it's basically the same odds. So that's one thing I kind of want to just call out, is sometimes you can make a read of what is or isn't in your opponent's hand based on how they played their last turn. So on this turn, I think it's fair to say Sommet probably doesn't have boss in his hand. But anyways, that's besides the point, because if you look at the hand, we're probably going to play Iono. But I just wanted to call that out. So okay, so we said we can't leave something with 100 or less in the active, right? Because then we're just going to lose the Iron Hands. And Sommet is bench locked, so stuff like Weird Ear isn't an option for him. Stuff like another Lumineon for a boss isn't an option for him. So in our long-term planning, we probably want to take advantage of the fact that Sommet has his board locked like this. Because if you ever take a knockout, there's a lot of cards you lose to. You lose to Weird Ear, because there's enough energy on the board, right? And then you can just knock out the Dragapult. You lose to Lumineon, because then Lumineon just gets you boss, right? So then that basically means you also lose if your opponent draws boss. They draw Lumineon, they draw Weird Ear, they draw Nest Ball, they draw Ultra Ball, they flip Tails on Aroma, they flip Heads on Mesagoza. You're giving your opponent a lot of outs to win the game. So I think it's important that we try and take all our prize cards at once if we can, and especially that we don't trigger a gift energy. So that's one thing I think we have to consider in our long-term planning. So if you didn't pause the video and you want to pause now and try and figure out how to get all 6 in one go, try that maybe. But I think with the Dragapult deck, there's a lot of ways you can do that, right? This already has 10 on it, so if we ever Phantom Dive Iron Hands and you put it at 210, that's perfect math for you to use Radiant Alakazam after and knock this out. So even if Sommet wants to put a Mist on this, that doesn't really work for him, right? So that 10 damage from earlier with Medu works great. Sommet also has Lumineon, and he has Squawk ability on his bench. So then if we use a Dusknoir on either of these Pokemon, you can also finish them off with a Phantom Dive, right? And both these Pokemon also have very little HP, and they can get knocked out in one shot from a Dragapult. So I think both of these are going to have to be taken advantage of if we want to win this game. So our plan probably has to involve a Phantom Dive on an Iron Hands, and you'd probably put the damage. You can either put all 6 on a Squawk, you can put 3 and 3 or something, and then you would win by going Alakazam 20 from here to Iron Hands. This would be knocked out. You can pop a Dusknoir on this, so then that would be 4 prizes, and then you can counter catch our boss and finish off with the Lumineon. So that's probably the long-term plan we're trying to go for. Whoops. But we still have to get there, right? Which is going to take a long time, because we know we can't Phantom Dive this turn. So we need to survive the turn. So let's go back to what I said, where you can't put something that has more than, or less than 100 health in the active. So what if we put like Alakazam this turn to sacrifice it, right? There's a problem with this, because Sonic can just go Lugia, like he can even retreat all the energy off the Iron Hands, knock out Radiant Alakazam, and now since he's a 1 prize card, we can never use Dusknoir. And then because we can't use Dusknoir, we can't take all 6 prizes as one go. Like Sonic can just like 2-shot a Dragapult even, and we're gonna lose. So that's why we can't really sacrifice something that can get knocked out by Lugia. So that's another condition we have this turn. So if I look at the deck, the only thing that you can really use that doesn't get knocked out is the Dragapult, right? So if you evolve to Dragapult and you let Dragapult take a hit, then Lugia can't knock it out. So maybe we could attach and Jet Headbutt. Let's just shut 10. So then if we Jet Headbutt, we can set this up. But then that actually like ruins everything for us, because like we said, now we have to Phantom Dive and knock this out. And then if I knock it out, there's a gift getting triggered, there's a bench space, so now Weird comes into play, all this bad stuff. And the other problem is, like, regardless of that, is if your opponent just hits you for 100 on your turn, we don't have Crystal, so then we can't set up a backup Dragapult, right? That attack with Phantom Dive. So if you Phantom Dive with this guy, then Lugia just comes in and Tempest Dives you for a game. So it's really important that we don't attack with Dragapult and we don't waste our attachment on this one. You probably have to attach to Dracloak and then just let this take a hit. Okay, so now we kind of have the plan, but we're not even like done yet, because we also need to figure out how we're going to switch this out of the active next turn, right? Because Hedrick doesn't play Switch, and then Rescue Board is already on the Duskull. So next turn, if you want to attack, we're also going to have to play Professor Turo to pick this up. Otherwise, we can't, attack with this guy, because we'd have to attach and retreat. So it's a lot of moving pieces that we have to put into place. But that's kind of the idea, right? Like, we have an idea of what we're working towards, and then we're not guaranteed to draw it, but we kind of have to sequence it all out. So I kind of just wanted to go over like what the plan is and how you can kind of see like how some things kind of got into roadblocks, and like how you can sometimes figure that out is just by being like, hey, like if I put up Alakazam, what happens? It's like they retreat, knock it out. Okay, my plan is ruined. If I attack with 70 with Jet Headbutt, what happens? Okay, well I get punched, and then next turn I'm gonna get knocked out, or I can't attack, right? Just asking the question like what happens if I do X is like really important, right? And that really helps guide a lot of the decisions, especially when it's really complicated. So we're gonna hop back now to the board, and we're just gonna kind of like watch Hedrick sequencing now as it goes on. And now since you guys kind of know what we're working towards, maybe you guys can also like try and decide when he does like recon directives or what to play and all that stuff. If you're enjoying this content and want more like it, consider signing up for my Metafy class, where I post a weekly board stage / puzzle. Last week I actually went over a play from Lucas Zing in the finals of the Vancouver Regional Championships. And in addition to that, I also give you access to my Discord, where you can get all my up-to-date tested deck list and ask me questions. There's also the option to join my weekly group class, where I go over advanced topics and answer questions every week. If you're interested, the link is in the description. You can also support me by using code Ciaran when you buy Endgame TCG sleeves. These are the sleeves I use for every single tournament, and they're also Canadian owned and operated. They're a great product, so consider using them next time you sleeve up a deck. So, his hand is pretty good for 3 cards. So he has the Psychic, the Ultra Ball, and the Iono. So I think he maybe considers doing a recon directive to try and get some like discard fodder if he wants to play Ultra Ball right away. There's also a Mesagoza in play that you could use. I think the problem is if you recon directive, like even if you draw like a bad card, you don't have enough discard fodder, because you'd have to Ultra Ball either the Iono or the Psychic, and we need both of those cards. Like the Iono more so to like draw us cards instead of disrupting Sonic. Like we said, he probably doesn't have boss, right? So he does probably like might have like research or something. So the Iono is still good, but it's like not 100% necessary. But I think since our hand is so small, I favor attaching. And then you could also Mesagoza right now, but I like doing Mesagoza after the Iono. And the reason being is we want a lot of Pokemon if we're going to win, right? We need to get a Dusknoir, we're going to need to get a Dragapult, we're going to maybe need like Lumineon later, because we said Turo is necessary, right? So if you do Mesagoza now and you just grab Dragapult, like if you Iono, like Dragapult was a good draw for us, because then we can use Mesagoza for a different Pokemon. Or if you draw another Dragapult, then you kind of wasted Mesagoza, because we really only needed like 1, right? So definitely you want to hold off on Mesagoza until we do our Iono, which is going to be his next action here, which I think makes a lot of sense. So you want to draw the 6 cards, then you can recon Directive, so you can keep them in your hand, so send them to the bottom. Because he's going to need like some combos if he's going to win eventually. We are going to need like Dusknoir, we're going to need Counter Catcher or Boss, we need Turo next turn. We need a lot to work with. So here's the 6 cards. He actually draws a really good hand. You can see like Luminion and the Forest Seal Stone. We have Arven if we need it for later. That could turn into like Counter Catcher, for example. And then the Luminion turns into the Turo that we need. And the Forest can be any of our combo pieces. And like we kind of discussed, you lose the boss no matter what. So it's perfectly fine to bench Luminion this turn if we need to use the Forest Seal Stone. So now from here, there's not really a reason to like play any of our cards. Now I think you can just go and start doing the recon directives. So let's start with the first one. There's a Rare Candy and a Dracloak. I don't really think it matters which one you pick. Rare Candy might be slightly better because you can Rare Candy Dusknoir, but we also have a Dusclops that you can just evolve to. And then here comes the second one. And this one is actually, I think, a really interesting choice. There's an Ultra Ball and a Fire. So we're going to need both of those cards. You need the Fire Energy to attack next turn. And you also need the Ultra Ball this turn to get like the Dragapult, or later to get a Dusknoir. So there is a Mesagoza in play. So you could pick the Fire. But then if you flip Tails on the Mesagoza, you do have to commit your Forest Seal Stone to grabbing the Dragapult this turn. And then we also like have to draw the Dusknoir next turn. Or like over 2 turns. But I think the Ultra Ball is the safest grab because it lets you hold your Forest Seal Stone in the event that you flip Tails on Goza. And like I said, we do need Dragapult and Dusknoir. So if we flip heads on Goza, Ultra Ball is still a good card because it can grab you the other Pokemon. So I think Ultra Ball is slightly better than Fire here. I don't think Fire is like a horrible take, but Ultra Ball is definitely like the safer, better take here. So now at this point, we've drawn all our cards. I think you can just go ahead and Mesagoza. Yeah, there you go. One thing maybe Andrew could have done is he could have maybe Luminion as his first action and grabbed Turo, because we know we're going to need that no matter what. And then you can also get the Forest Seal Stone down, just in case you get Ionoed. Because like if you get Ionoed in this hand, like you lose all this stuff anyways. And I feel like if Salmon has Iono, he's going to play it regardless of what Andrew does here. So that could have been like a nice way to like thin one card, but I don't think it's that important. So, yeah, the Ultra Ball, we get rid of Poffin and Lance. Neither of those cards are factoring into our strategy here, right? We don't need either of them to pull off what we're going for. So here we're going to just get the Dragapult so that we can let it take a hit. And you can see he immediately evolves it to the one without energy. So you can tell that he has this all mapped out in his head already and planned. I'm just going to skip his shuffling here. And then he decides not to bench Luminion, I think. Yeah, he decides not to bench it, which I think is also fine. I guess he also gives himself some more outs. Like, if Mesagoza stays in play, if he gets Ionoed, he can, like, Goza for it. But yeah, I have to check how many Ionos Summit has. But yeah, I think it's fine not to bench it. I also think it's fine to bench it. Obviously, one is more correct than the other. I'm not 100% sure which one is the best. I don't know, I kind of lean towards just putting it down with the Forest. Because then, like, if you got Ionoed and you Goza for it, like, you still need to take Turo, and you don't have the Forest. So then, like, you can just keep it on the board and then Forest for Turo. But it's not a big deal either way. So then Summit here basically just has to pass, right? It's like, as Andrew, like, as soon as you don't see Summit just slam a boss, like, you know, like, you're in a good spot. So now this turn, Andrew goes for Mesagoza before doing Recon Directive. And the reason now he goes for Mesagoza before Recon Directive is we only need one Pokemon. So last turn we needed Dragapult and Dusknoir. So you would be happy to Recon Directive into one or the other, because then you can Goza for the other one. But now this turn we only need Dusknoir, we don't need anything else. So you want to Mesagoza first, so you can pull it out of your deck, and then you have a higher chance of hitting better cards off of the Recon Directive. There you go, there's a heads. Grab that Dusknoir. Yeah. Then now here comes the Recon. And then Poffin Stretcher, there's a Fire in the discard. So Stretcher is like the obvious grab here. Yeah. And now you can pretty much just put the whole plan into place. We don't even have to use our Forest Seal Stone because we hit the Fire. If we would have with Fire there, you would have had the Forest for the Fire. Not that that would have been a big deal because you have Arven for Counter Catcher next turn. But and the nice thing too with the Turo is that like the Dragapult that we need to attack this turn is going to come into our hand, which is good. Just skip ahead a little bit from the shuffling. So the Turo is going to get played. Now here we go. We get ready to Phantom Dive. And then he just benches a GP again, because then you can evolve it to Dracloak next turn if you need to. Like, let's say he gets Iono and you need to draw some cards, like that can just turn to Dracloak. And then we should definitely put the Dusknoir into play. We should put the Forest Sealstone into play. Lugia doesn't play any tool removal, so there's no reason not to put it down. And like we said, we're not playing around boss because we lose the boss, so it doesn't matter if Lumineon gets bossed and the stone is there, we would just lose the game anyways. But it's better just to play around Iono, because if you put it there, then you have guaranteed game on board if your opponent plays Iono. So now, like, Summit has to draw boss on his turn or he's going to lose. So I think after a couple seconds, Andrew's going to commit to that. I think he realizes there's no reason to hold that anymore. Yeah. And then we're going to see a Phantom Dive, and he just has to pick how to spread the damage. So I think it's really important that you put at least 3 or 4 on, like, Lumineon or Squawk. And just make sure you have enough damage left over to, like, use Alakazam next turn. So, yeah. As long as 3 goes on the Squawk and you put at least 2 somewhere else, then that's fine. The only way you could misplay is if you put, like, 3 on the Squawk and then, like, 1, 1, 1, like, elsewhere. So I think, yeah, Hedrick's just going to put all 6 on the Squawk. He knows that Lugia doesn't play any way to pick that thing up. I think he knows probably that Summit doesn't play Thornton, so there's no risk by doing that there. Now Summit, again, he doesn't slam anything, so he doesn't have boss. He's kind of just stuck here. The game is actually just over here. He only has 1 mist in the deck. He prized one of them. One way Summit could have prevented all this is if he had 2 mists left, he could have put 1 on Lumineon, 1 on Squawk, and it would have stopped this play from happening. Then Hedrick would have had to go, like, punch here, and then, like, you maybe, like, punch Lugia after. Or no, that wouldn't work, actually. You'd have to go maybe, like... Actually, I don't know if Hedrick has a way to win if this and this had a mist. Okay, future Ciaran here. I thought about it some more. I figured out how Andrew would actually win if they both had mist. So what you would do is you would Alakazam the 10 from the hands before you attack it to Squawk. And then you would just Phantom Dive here. So this would have 200 on it. And then just put 6, like, on something that doesn't have a mist. On the following turn, what you could do is you could move 20 from wherever you put the 60 onto the Squawk. And then you can pop Dusknoir on the Squawk to take 2 prizes. And you can just do the counter catcher on the Lumineon. And then since all of Andrew's Summit's mists are in play, you know the hands isn't protected, and then you knock out Lumineon, you knock out hands. So double mist actually doesn't work for Summit. Andrew could win no matter what in this position. The only way he could lose is if there was somehow, like, triple mist or quadruple mist in the list. But that doesn't exist. So yeah, that's what he would have done if there was double mist. So he still could have won pretty easily. But yeah, but because this play came through and there's damage on the Squawk, the game is just, like, over at this point. So we'll see Summit, like, try and put, like, mist on the Squawk now, but it's just a little too late. It's not going to stop him. And then now I think we see the scenario that we talked about at the very start when we were going over the board. We can just Alakazam 20 damage from the Squawk onto the Iron Hands for 2 prizes. We can Dusknoir the Squawk for 2 prizes, and then we can Gust up the Lumineon for the last 2 prizes. And take all 6 prize cards in one go, which is insane whenever it happens. So Hedrick has the game in his hand because he has Forest and he has Arven. My only guess why he's doing, he even gets counter catcher and boss there. My only guess of why he's doing this is, like, there's 3 minutes left in the round. So if they go to a game 3, which they are, his deck is, like, not able to win. And, like, if he gets a really bad start, maybe Summit could steamroll him. That's my only guess of why he didn't just do it right away. Or maybe he just wanted to double check, I don't know. But yeah, so now he just masterfully does everything nice and slow. Pretty cool. Summit doesn't just scoop right away. He lets Andrew pull out the whole combo. And then, yeah, 6 prize comeback for Andrew there. So I think that was, like, an awesome game where it took a really elite understanding of like, how you did tank hits, how you can't, like, just attack willy-nilly, how you have to, like, set up the damage so you can win in multiple turns, and just, like, really showcasing why the Dragapult deck is, like, probably the best deck in our current format when it has a strong pilot. So hopefully you guys learned something, or at least just enjoyed seeing that play. If you did, please leave me a like and a comment, and subscribe if you want to see more content from me. And yeah, let me know what you guys thought of this play. If there's other plays I should review, I always love VOD reviewing high-level plays. But until next time, thanks for watching.